The view from the 42nd floor of the Willis Tower was a grid of cold, hard light. Chicago in February was a lesson in endurance. The wind off the lake didn't just blow, it stripped you. It found the weak points in your coat, your mood, your resolve. It was a city that respected only one thing: leverage. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling glass, watching the ant-sized traffic crawl along Wacker Drive. My reflection ghosted against the darkened window. Kieran Frost, 29 years old, senior analyst at Sterling and Associates. I was the guy they called when a company was bleeding out and the board wanted to sell the organs. I didn't save businesses, I liquidated them. I turned dreams into tax write-offs and real estate acquisitions. I checked my watch, a Patek Philippe I bought with my first bonus to prove I wasn't the kid from the trailer park anymore. 6:45 p.m. The office was quiet. The hum of the HVAC, the only sound. My phone buzzed on the mahogany desk. A text from Richard Sterling. Vance Distillery. The daughter is stalling. Close it. I stared at the message. Vance Distilleries, 100-year-old brand, small batch bourbon, family owned, and currently drowning in $3 million of debt. It was a classic distressed asset. The math was simple. The land, sitting on the riverfront, was worth 5 times more than the whiskey stored in the warehouse. I picked up the file. Elena Vance, 38, took over when her father died 6 months ago. She had refused 3 offers. She was stubborn. She was sentimental. In my line of work, sentimentality was a liability on the balance sheet. I put on my coat, a charcoal cashmere blend that acted as my armor against the cold and the guilt. I adjusted the collar. I wasn't going there to save her. I was going there to explain the physics of a sinking ship. I was going there to twist the knife, politely. I drove my Audi through the sleet to the industrial district. The transition was stark, from the steel and glass of the Loop to the crumbling red brick and iron of the old manufacturing zone. The Vance building was a fortress from the 1920s, standing defiant against the sleek glass condos encroaching on all sides. It looked tired. It looked like it was losing. I parked in the empty lot. I walked to the heavy oak door. I knocked. The sound was swallowed by the wind. The door opened. She wasn't what I expected. The dossier said heiress. I expected pearls, panic, and a lawyer standing in front of her. Elena Vance was wearing steel-toed work boots, jeans covered in barrel dust, and a heavy flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms toned from labor. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, strands escaping to frame a face that was sharp angles and exhaustion. There was a smudge of charcoal on her high cheekbone. "We're closed," she said, her voice raspy. It was the voice of someone who had spent the day shouting over machinery. "Miss Vance, I'm Kieran Frost, from Sterling and Associates. We had an appointment." She looked at me, then at my suit, then at the sleet hitting my shoulders. "You're the vulture," she said flatly. "I'm the broker," I corrected. "And it's freezing. May I come in?" She hesitated, her hand tightening on the doorframe. Then she stepped back. "Come in." I stepped inside. The air hit me instantly. It smelled of roasted corn, oak, vanilla, and fermentation. It was a warm, heavy, living smell. It smelled like history. It smelled like something real. Beat 2. Setup, context, and sidecast. The distillery floor was a cathedral of copper. Massive stills rose into the darkness of the rafters, gleaming dully in the security lights. Rows of wooden fermentation vats hissed softly. "Sterling sent you to threaten me again?" she asked, walking briskly toward a small, glass-walled office in the corner of the warehouse floor. She didn't offer to take my coat. She didn't offer water. "He sent me to explain the reality of your balance sheet," I said, following her. My dress shoes clicked on the concrete. Her boots thudded. "You missed the last 2 interest payments. The bank is going to call the loan on Monday. If they do, you lose everything. The brand, the building, the inventory. Sterling is offering you a lifeline, a buyout." She stopped at her desk, which was covered in a chaotic spread of ledgers, invoices, and sticky notes. "I know the math, Mr. Frost. I have an MBA from Northwestern. I also have a warehouse full of 12-year-old bourbon that is ready to bottle. If I can get it to market, I can pay the interest. I can pay the principal. You don't have a distributor." Sterling blocked them. She spun around. Her eyes were green, furious, and tired. "That's illegal," she snapped. "It's business. I countered calmly. He owns the logistics channels in the Midwest. He wants the land. Elena. He doesn't care about the whiskey. He sees a warehouse. He wants a shipping container depot. It's not just whiskey, she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. It's my father's legacy. I have master distillers who have been here for 40 years. I'm not selling to a man who will pave over their lives. I looked at her. I saw the exhaustion in her posture, the way she leaned against the desk to take the weight off her feet. I saw the fear she was trying to hide behind anger. I knew that look. I had seen it in the mirror when I was 18, living in a car in Detroit, trying to figure out how to pay for community college credits while my mother worked 3 jobs. She was drowning. And I was the anchor. Then you need a new strategy, I said. Because hope isn't a strategy. And pride doesn't pay the electric bill. I don't have money for a high-priced consultant. I'm not asking for a retainer. She narrowed her eyes. Why would you help me? You work for him. You're the enemy. Because I read the contract Sterling drafted? I said. The one he wants you to sign tonight. He put in a clause on page 42 that absolves him of your employee pension liabilities. He's going to wipe out their retirement to pad his margins. She went pale. The anger vanished, replaced by shock. He lied. It's what he does. He treats people like line items. I took a step closer. The smell of the mash was intoxicating. Or maybe it was her intensity. I can help you restructure the debt, I said. I can find you a bridge loan. Private equity. Someone who wants the brand. Not the land. But we have to move fast. Before Monday. Before the bank opens. Why? She asked again. What's in it for you? Why betray your boss? Let's just say I have an issue with bullies, I lied. It wasn't the whole truth. The truth was, I was bored. I was tired of destroying things. I was tired of winning easy fights. I wanted to see if I could build something for once. Prove it, she said. She walked to a cabinet and pulled out a bottle and 2 heavy crystal glasses. No label on the bottle. Just dark amber liquid that caught the light. My broker suggested we seal the deal over drinks, she said, quoting the subject line of a standard introductory email I had sent her assistant weeks ago. Here we are. My place. Not a bar. She poured. The sound of the liquid hitting the glass was rich. She handed me a glass. This is the 12-year, she said. The batch my father laid down before he got sick. If you can drink this without flinching, and look me in the eye and tell me you can save this place, I'll listen. I took the glass. I didn't drink whiskey. I drank water, protein shakes, and expensive wine at client dinners. I took a sip. It burned. It tasted like smoke, caramel, leather, and time. It tasted like struggle. I didn't flinch. I let the burn settle in my chest. I can save it, I said. Beat 3. Inciting incident. The collision. We spent the next 4 hours in her office. I took off my jacket, draping it over a barrel. I rolled up my sleeves. She turned on a space heater that rattled in the corner, fighting the drafty chill of the warehouse. We went through the books. It was worse than I thought. The cash flow was non-existent, but there were assets. Hidden value. Your father owned the mineral rights to the water source? I asked, pointing at a faded deed from 1950. The spring? Yes. It's on the property line. It's why the whiskey tastes like that. It's limestone filtered. We can leverage that. We can spin off the water rights as a separate holding company and borrow against it. It keeps the distillery encumbered, but liquid. She looked at me, tapping her pen on her lip. You're good at this. I am efficient. You're a shark, she corrected. But maybe I need a shark. She stood up to get more coffee from the pot in the corner. She brushed past me in the narrow space behind the desk. The contact was brief, her flannel shirt against my silk tie, but it felt like a static shock. I smelled soap and oak. She paused. I paused. So, she said, her voice a little breathless, we create a holding company. Then what? Then we find a distributor who hates Sterling. The enemy of my enemy. We bypass the local blockade. Apex Global, she said. They've been trying to break into the Midwest market for years. Exactly. We offer them exclusivity on the 12-year reserve in exchange for an immediate advance on distribution. Cash up front. It's a risk. If the batch is bad, is it bad? It's the best we've ever made, she said. She looked at me with such fierce pride that I felt a pang of envy. I didn't have anything I cared about that much. I had a portfolio. She had a legacy. She had roots. I was just wind. Then we bet on the bourbon, I said. My phone buzzed on the desk. Sterling, status? Have you signed her? I flipped the phone face down on the desk. I didn't answer. It was a small act of rebellion, but it felt massive. Who was that? She asked. Noise, I said. Irrelevant noise. She looked at the phone, then at me. You're going to get fired for this. I have savings. And I have skills. Kieran, she said. It was the first time she used my name. It sounded different when she said it. Grounded. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive the audit. Sterling isn't going to let this go. He'll send the wolves. Let them come, she said, picking up her glass. I have a shark. Beat 4. First obstacle. The resistance. The audit came on Friday. Sterling had pulled strings. He realized I wasn't answering, and he realized Elena wasn't folding. He sent a team of forensic accountants to tear the place apart, looking for a reason, any reason, to declare insolvency before Monday. I was there when they arrived at 8 a.m. I was wearing my armor, a navy suit, a tie knot so tight it could cut glass. Mr. Frost, the lead auditor said, surprised. He adjusted his glasses. We didn't expect you here. I'm representing Miss Vance in a consulting capacity, I said smoothly, blocking the doorway to the records room. Conflict of interest forms have been filed. They hadn't. But I knew the filing system was slow. By the time they checked, the weekend would be over. I spent 8 hours intercepting them. I knew their tricks because I had invented some of them. They tried to undervalue the inventory based on bulk grain prices. Incorrect, I said, pulling up a spreadsheet on my tablet. This is aged inventory. You cannot value 12-year bourbon at spot grain prices. We value this based on barrel-aged inventory appraisal standards. Here are the comps from the secondary market auctions last quarter. Each barrel is worth 20 times your estimate. They tried to disqualify the equipment depreciation. The copper stills are capital assets under active production, I countered. Check the accelerated depreciation schedule. It's fully compliant with the manufacturing tax incentives for this zone. You can't write them down to scrap value. Elena watched me from the catwalk above the distillery floor. She was holding a clipboard, her knuckles white. She looked like a captain, watching her ship navigate a minefield. At 5 p.m., the auditors left. They looked frustrated. They hadn't found a kill shot. You were terrifying, she said, coming down the stairs. The heavy industrial noise of the distillery seemed to quiet as she approached. I was thorough. You lied to them about the conflict forms. I improvised. Truth is a variable in negotiation. She laughed. It was a rusty sound, like she hadn't used it in a while. It transformed her face. I owe you dinner, she said. Real food. Not takeout. Not coffee. We went to a diner around the corner. It was loud, bright, and smelled of grease and onions. It was the kind of place I avoided. I usually ate at places with white tablecloths and sommeliers who knew my name. She ordered a burger with everything. I ordered a salad. She rolled her eyes. Eat some protein, Kieran. You look like you run on caffeine and ambition. I do. Tell me about you, she said, dipping a fry in milkshake. Where do you come from? You don't have the Chicago old money accent. You sound cultivated. I grew up in Detroit, I said, surprising myself. I never talked about this. Not to my colleagues. Not to the women I dated for 3 months at a time. My dad worked on the line. My mom cleaned houses. We lost our house in '08. She stopped eating. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me how the world works. If you don't own the debt owns you. I decided I would never be on the losing side of a foreclosure again. So you became the guy who serves the papers. I became the guy who understands the leverage. I wanted to be bulletproof. She reached across the table and touched my hand. Her fingers were rough, warm, and now you're using the leverage for the little guy. Why? Maybe I like the whiskey, I said, looking away. You hate the whiskey. You winced when you drank it. You have a poker face, but your eyes gave it away. I looked back at her. Her eyes were warm, intelligent. Maybe I like the distiller, I admitted. The air between us shifted. The noise of the diner faded. Beat 5. Rising action. Domesticity and bonding. We had 48 hours until the Monday deadline. We needed the advance from Apex Global. I set up a war room in her apartment above the distillery. It was a loft space, exposed brick. Warm Persian rugs, books everywhere. It was messy, vibrant, and alive. It was the exact opposite of my sterile condo, which looked like a hotel lobby. We worked through the weekend, drafting the pitch deck, valuating the reserves, creating the legal framework for the holding company. I saw her in her natural element. She wasn't just a business owner, she was a chemist. She brought samples up. She explained the aging process, the char levels of the barrels, the angel's share, the evaporation. It breathes, she said, holding a glass to the light on Saturday night. The wood expands and contracts with the seasons. It pulls the liquid in and pushes it out. It's a living thing. You can't rush it. You can't hack it. I watched her hands. They were strong, capable. You love it, I said. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. The world is chaos. Politics, markets, dating, it's all noise. It's honest. She handed me a glass. Try this one. It's a single barrel, cask strength. I took it. I sipped. It was intense. It hit my palate like a hammer wrapped in velvet. It's aggressive, I said. It's complex, she corrected. She was standing close to me. Too close. Like you. The air in the room changed. The pressure dropped. Outside, the Chicago winter howled against the brick. Inside, it was warm. I'm not complex, I said. I'm a spreadsheet in a suit. No, she said, stepping closer. She reached out and touched my tie. You're not. A spreadsheet wouldn't have stayed up all night to save my pension fund. A spreadsheet wouldn't have eaten a salad at a greasy spoon just to be polite. She reached up and loosened my tie. You're strangling yourself, Kieran. Let it breathe. My heart hammered against my ribs. I wanted to kiss her. I wanted to drop the file and pull her into me. I wanted to bury my face in her neck and smell the oak and vanilla, but I was her consultant. I was the guy saving the business. If I crossed this line, I became a liability. I became unprofessional. I took a step back. I forced myself to look at the paperwork. We need to finish the proposal, I said, my voice rough. She looked at me, hurt flashing in her eyes for a microsecond, then she nodded. Right. The proposal. She turned away. I felt the loss of her proximity like a physical chill. I put my phone face down on the table to stop myself from checking the time, from calculating the odds. I focused on the work. It was the only thing I knew how to control. Beat 6, midpoint twist, the shift, Monday morning. We walked into the Apex Global headquarters. I was in my best suit. Elena was wearing a sharp black blazer over a dress. She looked powerful. She looked like a CEO. The meeting went perfectly. I presented the numbers. Elena presented the product. The Apex executives tasted the bourbon. They nodded. They understood the value. We're interested, the VP said. The exclusivity deal works for us. We can have the advance wired by 2 p.m. We did it. We saved the distillery. We walked out of the building into the cold Chicago sunlight. Elena grabbed me and hugged me on the sidewalk. We did it, she laughed. Kieran, we actually did it. I hugged her back. For a moment, I let myself feel it. The victory. The warmth of her body against mine. The smell of her hair. Then my phone rang. It was Sterling. Did you think I wouldn't find out? His voice was ice. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, pulling away from Elena. You're representing Vance. Against me. You're fired, Kieran. That goes without saying. But I'm also freezing your accounts pending an investigation into corporate espionage. And I just filed an injunction against the Apex deal. On what grounds? I demanded. Conflict of interest. You are an employee of Sterling and Associates negotiating against your own firm's interests. I resigned, I said. Effective this morning. I hadn't, but I would. The paperwork isn't filed. You were an employee when you drafted the deal. That makes the deal poison. The bank forecloses at 5 p.m. Nice try, kid. You should have stayed in your lane. The line went dead. I stood there on the sidewalk, the phone freezing in my hand. What? Elena asked. What is it? He filed an injunction, I said, my voice hollow. The deal is frozen. Apex won't wire the money. The bank calls the loan at 5. She stared at me. Because of you? Because I didn't quit first. I tried to play both sides until the last minute to keep access to the data. I thought I could outsmart him. You. You sabotaged it. I tried to be clever, I said. I was arrogant. You lied to me, she said, backing away. You said you filed the conflict forms. You said you were clear. I had to buy time. You're just like him, she whispered. Elena, no. I can fix this. How? You have 4 hours. I have savings. I can pay the interest myself. With frozen accounts? She shot back. You just said he froze you out. She was right. I was liquidated. I had zero leverage. I need to go, she said. I need to go be with my staff when the sheriff comes to padlock the doors. I need to look them in the eye. She hailed a cab. She didn't look back. Beat 7. Second obstacle. Internal or external. I went to my apartment. My keycard didn't work. Sterling had locked me out of the corporate housing. I sat on a bench in Millennium Park. It was 2 p.m. I had 3 hours. I had nothing. No job, no apartment, no access to my funds. I was back in Detroit, sitting on the curb, waiting for the eviction notice. I looked at the city, the grid, the system I thought I had mastered. It had chewed me up and spit me out. I thought about Elena, about the smell of the mash, about the way she looked at the barrels. It's a living thing. I wasn't a living thing. I was a mechanism. And mechanisms could be broken, but they could also be re-engineered. I pulled out my laptop. I sat in the cold and connected to the public Wi-Fi. My hands were shaking. Not from the cold, but from rage. I still had one thing. The escrow package. Years ago, when I started at Sterling, I set up a digital dead man's switch, just in case. To protect myself. It contained the unredacted files of every hostile takeover Sterling had engineered, including the pension funds he had raided, including the bribes to zoning commissioners. It was mutual assured destruction. If I released it, I would go to jail for corporate espionage. I would be disbarred from finance forever, but Sterling would go to jail for fraud. I looked at the clock. 3:30 p.m. I could walk away, start over in New York, or I could burn it all down to save a distillery in Chicago. I thought about the grilled cheese sandwich. I thought about the way she looked at me when she loosened my tie. I started typing. Beat 8. Climax. Active choice. I walked into Sterling's office at 4:15 p.m. The secretary tried to stop me. I ignored her. Sterling was on the phone. He hung up when he saw me. Security! He shouted. Cancel the foreclosure, I said calmly. You're trespassing, Kieran. You're finished. You'll never work in this town again. I placed a USB drive on his desk. It clicked against the glass. That contains the unredacted ledgers from the Henderson acquisition and the Miller merger. Specifically, the offshore accounts where you hid the pension assets you stole. Sterling went silent. His face turned a shade of gray that matched his expensive carpet. You stole confidential data. That's a felony. It is, I agreed. And fraud is also a felony. The difference is, I don't care if I go to jail. I have nothing left to lose. You took my job, my home, and my money. You have a yacht in the Mediterranean and a Senate run next year. I leaned over the desk. I wasn't the employee anymore. I was the executioner. This is a copy. The original is in a digital escrow account. If I don't input a code in 20 minutes, it automatically emails the entire package to the SEC and the Chicago Tribune. Sterling stared at the drive. Sweat beaded on his forehead. What do you want? Money? No. I want a deal. You are going to buy the Vance debt from the bank. Today. You want me to pay her debt? You buy the debt. Then you execute a sale-leaseback agreement for the property. You take the title to the land that helps your logistics hub portfolio. But you lease the distillery back to Vance for 20 years at market rate, with an exclusive option to repurchase at the original price in 5 years. Sterling blinked. A sale-leaseback with a buyback option? That's reasonable. It's business, I said. She keeps her company. You get the land on your books, and the debt is cleared. Everyone wins, except you don't get to bulldoze the building. And if I refuse, then the email sends. And you spend the Senate campaign answering questions about the Cayman Islands. He looked at me. He saw the kid from Detroit who had nothing to lose. He saw the shark he had trained. He picked up the phone. His hand was shaking. Get me legal. And the bank, he snapped. I waited. I watched him make the call. I watched him instruct legal to draft the leaseback. I watched him sign the digital transfer. Done, he spat, throwing the confirmation at me. Get out. If I see you in this city again, I'll bury you. You already tried, I said. I picked up the paper. One more thing, I said. I want a mutual release and non-disparagement agreement. Signed now. I walk away clean. No lawsuits. No police. Sterling gritted his teeth. He signed it. I walked out. I didn't look back. Beat 9. Falling action. Aftermath. I arrived at the distillery at 4:55 p.m. The mood was funereal. The staff were packing boxes. Elena was sitting on a barrel, staring at the floor. She looked defeated. I walked in. I was shaking. The adrenaline crash was hitting me. Elena. She looked up. Her eyes were dull. Did you come to watch? Or do you have another lie to tell me? I handed her the paper. It's a sale-leaseback agreement, I said. Sterling bought the debt. He owns the land now. Her face fell further. So I lost. Read the rest, I urged. He leased the building back to you for 20 years. And you have a guaranteed option to buy the land back in 5 years at today's price. The debt is gone. The pension fund is safe. You just have a landlord for a few years. She read it. She read it twice. Her hands started to shake. He agreed to this? Why? I gave him a reason, I said. I leveraged a distressed asset. What asset? What did you give him? My silence, I said simply, and my career. I'm blacklisted at every major firm in the city, and I signed a non-disparagement agreement so I can never tell anyone what he did. She stood up. She walked over to me. She touched my face. You destroyed your career for this? I optimized my portfolio, I said. I traded a high-risk, low-reward position for a legacy investment. She kissed me. It wasn't tentative this time. It wasn't professional. It tasted like bourbon and tears and victory. It was the most honest thing I had ever felt. You're an idiot, she murmured against my mouth. I know. You need a job. I am currently unemployed, I confirmed, and technically homeless. I need a CFO, she said. Someone to manage the expansion. The pay is terrible. The boss is stubborn. But the office has a view of the mash tuns, and there's a pull-out couch in the loft until you find a place. Does it come with stock options? It comes with me, she said. Deal. Beat 10. Resolution. 2 months later. The distillery was buzzing. The launch party for the reserve blend was in full swing. The Apex distribution deal had gone through. Sterling didn't dare block it now. I was wearing jeans and a blazer. No tie. I was standing by the bar, watching the crowd. I felt lighter. I felt clean. Elena walked over. She looked happy. She looked like she owned the place because she did. We sold out of the first batch in an hour, she said. The demand modeling was accurate, I nodded. She rolled her eyes. You and your models? She handed me a glass. To the shark, she said. To the driver, I replied. I took a sip. It burned. But this time, I liked the burn. It warmed me. I have an idea, I said. For the next expansion, we can use the water rights to launch a premium mixer line. Margins are higher. Always working? She sighed, but she was smiling. It's what I do. No, she said, taking my hand and leading me toward the exit, away from the noise. It's what you did. Right now, the CFO has a mandatory meeting. Oh? With whom? With the owner. At her place. Not a bar. She pulled me out into the cool night air. The city grid was still there, glowing in the distance. The Willis Tower was a needle of light. But I wasn't watching it anymore. I wasn't looking for the exit. I was looking at her. Let's seal the deal, I said. And we did. The end.